That's good. Morning, Bill.
Morning.
How are you this morning?
Uh, I overslept.
Oh, well, you're catching up.
Yep. How are you?
I'm
How are
sorry?
you? How are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
Doctor's appointments all going well?
Yes, uh, my appointment yesterday with my oncologist found that there were no problems. My kidney function is improving.
Whoa, you're up to your next 90 years.
Uh, well, I'm aiming for 120 anyway.
120 is a good number.
I think so. Morning, Bill.
I
How are things in the South?
think it's in the South. Well, on the medical front, what you're doing, my brief medical things, I got a cortisone shot or two of them in my spine yesterday.
Oh, how was that?
Yeah, so my issue isn't so much pain, which my physical therapy and chiropractor manage amazingly well. It's more numbness that's growing in one of my legs, my right leg, which
Mm.
interferes with my ability to drive like a normal person. so, um, so we'll see if this. They say that numbness is hardest thing. Nerves are hardest thing to address
Yep.
with all of their methods. So, but there's some chance it's not as dramatic as it would be if pain was my main issue.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I did have 2 or 3 shots in the spine for my spinal stenosis before I got it under control, more or less.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
so, and they were very good for me um, as far as pain is concerned, but I didn't have numbness, so. Um,
Yeah, I've had that all since I was six, or I guess I was in the sixth grade or something, and had a
wow.
episode where my right leg just stopped working, and I had spinal surgery to remove a
Ooh.
benign cyst that was right along the nerve. And I've
Ah.
always had, like my right leg has sort of flailed out a little when I was hiking and everything, but never impacted everything. I played all sports and all that stuff, but it was there, and so
Yeah.
that's as you age, stuff that's there becomes up front,
Does it not?
as you know, yeah. I've
Indeed.
enjoyed reading. I want to change the subject.
Yeah,
briefly before we get somebody else. I've been reading the C365 Tao, and one of them made me think of something you talked about. It was five: wind and cave, movement and stillness, power and silence. And it's reflections on being in a cave.
yeah.
All outer sounds are smothered by rock and earth. And it reminded me of your experience. Uh, and you talked about that briefly, and there was a picture of it and stuff. But I wonder if you would take a minute and uh, re-access that.
Well, it was absolutely a life-changing experience. Um, it's I have to say it's the only place where I have felt energy so strong that it actually moved me without my doing anything. I was sitting and meditating the first day that I was there, and this was not the only time it happened, but the first day, and I could not believe how the energy was moving me in my. I was sitting on a stone bench, but it was moving my body around, and I was not having any intention of doing that. Um, I don't. It's hard to describe because the energy was very powerful. This cave had been used constantly since the Han Dynasty by Taoists to meditate from the major monastery at the base of the mountain. And I don't know. I guess I just felt I certainly felt that I made progress in terms of my spiritual growth that I would not have made otherwise in that experience. Um, I don't know how to. it
Yeah,
it
well, yeah, yeah.
I
The,
I am left speechless when I try to talk about it.
well, I think that's entirely in line with uh, what I've been reading, and I have read parts of this before, and you've said it, and Doctor and uh, Master Joe said it many times too.
Oh yeah.
It can't be spoken. The Tao cannot be spoken of. As soon as you talk
No.
about it, you're talking about something else.
Yeah, yeah, right. Um, there was also enormous peace there, and I was present in a way that I think prior to that time I had not experienced. Um, it was, it was. I'm certainly glad I did it. Let me put it that way. I think it benefited me enormously. My goodness, where's our ladies?
No,
They aren't here, and they
they're not
aren't
physically
there.
there. I I'll wager a guess that they're coming physically, and they're somebody fixing a tree or something.
Yeah, it could be. Could be. Um, it was really. It's funny that when I started reading about this trip to China and the description of, because Michael had established this content with the vice abbot of this monastery the year before, and for the first time they'd allowed Westerners into these caves.
Hmm.
And the more I read about it, the more I thought I should do it, and yet you felt like, how could I afford to do that? But at the same time,
Yes.
how can I afford not to do that?
Yes. Uh,
And so I did go, and it was I had some really amazing experiences in addition to that, but that week was really extraordinary. Well, gentlemen, um, maybe it is just the two of you today. So let us begin. If they join us, they join us. Good. So how's your practice going? Questions, problems, breakthroughs?
I think for me, it's been deliberate. I think it is at a little different level, employing some of the the mindfulness, uh, I think is improving uh, my ability to. I don't think I'm just like riding a bicycle yet, but but it's going in that direction. I'm not crashing into the fence, you know.
Oh, that's good. Good, good. Anything for you, Bill?
Well, it occurs to me that the more I do it and the more glimpses I have of what it can be, should be, um, the more I realize how much more time I'm going to have to put into it, um, to get there. And there's some amount of um, impatience. If I have a day when not much is going on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so the week was sporadic, let's say.
Yeah.
It is one of those things that if we don't do it,
Yep.
it's impossible.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of the bottom line there, Bill.
I've been thinking about it, and I've always been intrigued by the eight gates and the meditation and the
Mm.
eight trigrams and the five elements and moving through whatever form we're doing in Tai Chi and thinking about where you are with the five elements and the trigrams and the different types of energy and all the ways to describe each one. So I've been thinking about that with this also, um, which is interesting because in some ways it's a lot smaller, but I do feel like all that stuff happens too, smaller
Sure.
physically. But,
Yeah, it's it's all happening.
yeah.
But when you're thinking about the five elements and we're still at a more superficial level, at a yin yang level, if you will, and I'm going to talk more about that today. Um, because this is moving more deeply. Um, Actually, I think I'm going to answer that by going into my talk for today,
Good.
which is focused on a little bit on intent, but very much on a hopefully expanding your understanding of heart mind a little further. This is a really important um, not only concept but stage of development. So whenever you're doing any kind of energy practice or spiritual meditation practice, your attention has to be brought to what you are doing. And you have to be present to your attention. It's not enough to have attention and then lose it, have it, lose it, have it, lose it. You have to be aware that your attention is happening, and you have to be fully present to what you are doing. This is one of the hallmarks of all high-level energy work or meditation. Now, there are many terms for this state. When this is there are many terms for the state when this is not the case. In Buddhism, they refer to the monkey mind. In China, they prefer the image of the bucking horse throwing off its rider. Once you have attention and you're present and not being thrown off, the two other things come into play. One is ordinary intent. Being able to say, I want, means you have ordinary intent. If you can think, I want to go across the street, you can do that with ordinary intent. You don't have to do energy work or be particularly spiritual to do that. However, refining your intent to where it is not scattered, moving, thrown around, or distracted is the first stage of real intent. But to go to the next level or layer, what the Chinese call the heart mind or true consciousness, you have to go beyond ordinary intent to the place where your subconscious or true consciousness lives. Now, this is where your mind is unified, where it is not scattered, where it is one coherent whole. And they call this the heart mind, Sheen. Now, the heart mind is the place where thought comes from, not the thoughts themselves, because ordinary intent is the manipulating of thoughts. The heart mind is where a thought arises from. And this is when you have entered the real world of Qi, the real world of spirituality, where Neigong and meditation meet. It is the heart mind before words even come into your head that allows a person's prayers to be genuine. This is what allows a person saying a mantra to truly say the mantra. This is what allows a person doing Qi work to get everything moving. So this is what you must use in God's and every meditation practice in order to be able to let go of whatever binds your insides. So everyone has intent, and there are a million ways you can use it. but there is only one heart-mind. Now, where does your thought come from? What are the basics that even allow thought to arise? Where is it that your unconsciousness lives? And where is it that your consciousness can be awakened so it can be applied however it needs to be applied? All of this is the heart-mind. This term heart-mind, Xin, is used by some Taoists and not by others. Some continue to use the term Shen. The classic statement is Jing, Qi, Shen, Wu, Dao. Body, energy, spirit, emptiness, Tao. Body, mind, spirit was the New Age interpretation. In Taoism, Jing means just the body. Qi clearly means energy. Shen means spirit. Wu means emptiness. The complete comprehension of emptiness is Tao. Now, emptiness is understood at many levels in the beginning before one really gets what it does, what it is. You could refer to these as partial and full understandings. Now, the term heart-mind actually has two implications to it. It has the implication in Taoism of Shen, spirit or emptiness, or Wu, emptiness. In the Lao Tzu tradition, when Taoists speak of the heart-mind, they are specifically referring to the fifth and sixth energy bodies, the psychic and causal or karmic bodies. The ordinary use of the word qi is referring to the qi running through the acupuncture meridians that make the physical body function. But when qi is used in Taoism, it is actually talking about the qi of the emotions and the mind and the psychic realm. They are not just talking about physical qi, because they are most likely to use the term jing to refer to that. For them, that which creates the physical flesh, jing, is the same as energy. You can't separate them. Now, the heart-mind speaks of the place that exists inside of you from which thoughts emerge. But Taoist and Buddhist use the term heart-mind because it works to refer to the existence of that place which allows thoughts to emerge from. In Chinese thought, we have the terms yin and yang. Yin and yang are, in effect, all thought. Whatever comes into your perceptual mechanism, emotional, mental, or psychic, they have yin and yang qualities. And it is one thing, not another. It is not a rock nor a tree. There are always some yin and yang involved in human beings. Now, the place where yin and yang comes together and where any yin and yang emerges from is in Chinese Tai-Chi. When you talk about the heart-mind, you're talking about Tai-Chi as applied to thought or perception. One kind of thought. You have to have the thought to interpret any expression of any kind. Now the Taoists say the true thought of Taiji is Wuji, or the Tao. It is a substratum of all and everything. But for human beings to recognize that it's is almost impossible. Human beings can recognize what it does for them personally, but the whole from which the context springs, the Chinese in one sense call the Tao. So you get a thought in your head, and the way that you perceive it is usually by some form of analysis occurring. When you think, I am moving my hand, if you can go back a few levels, somewhere there, your body has made the analysis and the decision about the moment, about that movement that you are making. It may have occurred lightning fast, but that's what has gone on. But there is a place that allows those thoughts to burst through, and that is the heart-mind. Now, when you want to do movement, something in you has to create the context of any thought you are going to have about how that movement is going to occur. The way almost everybody does it initially, and which opens the door to potentially incessant neurotic behavior, is to analyze it, what it means, what it does, how did it go, what did it do. Spiraling thoughts, always trying to make sense of every other thought. And very often they are exaggerating, and each of the separate thoughts to an incredible degree. That results in neurotic ways of thinking, or obsessive neurotic thinking. And ultimately, the solution to neurotic thinking is to have your thoughts be truly integrated and come from one place. Neurotic thinking is making more than a statement of separated thinking gone wild. That is not integration. Now, if you get someone who is really clear about what something is, they are not going to start having a neurotic conversation about that. They're going to say, this is what it is, and this is what we are going to do. Have you ever tried to have a conversation with a real neurotic? It goes seriously weird. And the reason is that they make every thought that comes up important and disconnected to the others. This is not dissimilar to when you are practicing a form of Neigong, like God's, and you can't comprehend how to integrate all the parts at once. That is a statement of non-integration. Taiji births yin and yang, and that is when yin and yang is, and this is where yin and yang in every aspect integrates. And that means it's not yin and yang. It's neither one yin or one yang. It's both. It's neither. It's everything that could have to do with any aspect of yin and yang that could ever come out of any form. because it is all connected and contained in that Taiji. From that, all yin and yang spring out and combine ad infinitum. This is the point of integration. Now, what is the central quality of the element earth? Integration. It is in the earth practices in Taoism that the way of learning how to integrate comes about. It is here in the earth that one finds and learns about the integrative force. In the Lao Tzu school, God's playing in the clouds is the bridge between Qigong and Neigong and meditation. Because what is meditation but something that is eventually integrating the entirety of any human being in the world? When total integration occurs, absolute freedom follows. They mean the same thing from two different angles. But the neurotic separating of this and that does not create freedom, because each and every yin and yang is fighting for dominance. There is no freedom when one part of you is fighting with another part. You're in a war. Intrinsically, due to the nature of their structure, this is what happens if they are not integrated. In this discussion of heart-mind, I'm actually sharing with you how Bruce Francis communicated it to me and the rest of the class, and how his teacher, Master Liu Hong Xie, shared it with him. And I am using words to try to help you understand, but that's not how you're going to find the heart-mind. You're going to have to consider what is the place inside you that integrates. Our bodies are intrinsically integrated. What is the force inside you that allows all the myriad parts of your body to work with each other? How does how do the parts of the brain work together? Even Western science admits to knowing less than 5% of what the brain does. Now, for Eastern thought, this state of Taiji doesn't even have to do specifically with your brain, regardless of what it has to do with. There is something within you that allows you to integrate all the other glands and to get your appendages to work together without fighting with each other. If your body were to treat you the way the neurotic treats thoughts, you would probably explode into many pieces. Now, something keeps it together. What is it inside your body that allows you to integrate? What is it you have to do so that parts of you, of your practice, can become one thing? The last part of the 16 Neigong system says, all things work together. Now this is the statement of the heart-mind, which allows everything to be peaceful and in coexistence with everything else, and which brings out your ability to recognize ever finer perceptions and ever more discriminations, and to have ever finer control. But this is not a physical thing. This is not move this way and send the chi that. This is what allows you to do something and not let something else go. To have all be there and be equally recognized. So it takes a long time to learn about heart-mind, but it is important so that you can integrate your body and what you are doing in God's. When watching Bruce do martial applications, one is amazed at how much is going on in every movement. How could he remember all of that so fast and so well? He doesn't, because at that level, it is all one movement, because he is coming from the heart-mind. It is necessary to train very hard to actually achieve this level, since you cannot integrate something that isn't there to begin with. In Taoism, they say there is only one emotion. But this is a statement based on how the heart-mind integrates everything. The further a human being moves away from the heart-mind and focuses on all the little pieces, the further one moves away from being free inside. There is no integration. If you think from the heart-mind, you think holographically, not literally. Where is this place where everything integrates? Every sensation exists, and every ability to have it become one exists. In Chinese, the saying is, no matter what you think, where does it come from? That's the heart-mind. This then is used in some Taoist schools and not in others. The Neo-Taoist, who used the traditions that came from forward very strongly from 1000 AD onward, tended to use only the traditional Taoist terms. The term shun or spirit and heart-mind are used somewhat interchangeably by them. But shun is used for some very spiritual things. So what is the heart-mind? The easiest explanation is the common space that both your intellect and your emotions share. Now, that is the way it is often explained in the West, and that is the most feeble of all explanations of what it is. It is a bit like describing an encyclopedia as a book with a lot of information. The heart-mind is a few things. The term heart, used in this sense, is not the way heart is used in the New Age movement, just for emotions, heartfelt, or having a good heart. It is not you, it is not you, the emotional heart, because in Eastern and Taoist thought, the heart has two distinctly different qualities. At one level, the heart is related to emotions. Studies have shown that there are more thinking type cells in the heart than in the brain. The heart puts out more electrical impulses than the brain. So in one sense, the three dantians of Taoism could be called the brain that's in your belly, the brain that's in your heart, and the brain in your head. In Eastern thought, the heart is where the center of human consciousness resides. We think of it being in Baihui, in the head. But in the East, it is the heart. That which moves between one life and another. That which is the ultimate force of being conscious of anything that resides in the heart. So when the term heart-mind is used, it usually refers to that consciousness, not to the emotions. On the other side, mind is used not just in the sense of thinking, but in the absolute capacity for thought. Not just that you think something, but the capacity that even allows thought to come about. So the heart-mind is the place where the capacity for thought to come about and the essential consciousness of the human being are combined. What that combined thing does is that it recognizes every thought or perception as a yin or yang, or series of yin-yangs. But there is also a place from which yin and yang arise. And that place has two specific qualities, has no specific quality of any yin or yang, and yet allows you and allows yin and yang to appear. This is where all thoughts in your mind originate from. But it is not the thought, because once you have the thought, what you recognize is the concrete expression of the thought, the place that allows that thought to come from, to even come about, is the heart-mind. The disease of our common modern age is anxiety. War, economy, politics, all are creating anxiety in our society. The pace of modern life creates anxiety. This is a major this is a major symptom that the heart-mind is asleep and yin and yang are running the show. Everything that someone gets anxious about is a yin or yang. And anxiety, unfortunately, has a tendency to breed fear. Trying to remove anxiety through thinking it through does not usually work, because you are trying to use yin and yang to overcome yin and yang. And the more you use them, the more yin and yang you end up with. So the place where all this anxiety comes from is also the heart mind, which gives birth to it. You can use trying to be calm to try to counteract anxiety, but that is just another yin and yang. If the heart mind is active, you can go through being calm and being manic, and you could still not be bothered. You would still be stable. Tapping into the heart mind is what allows a person to become stable. So the heart mind is of its own nature what integrates all thought, since it gives birth to all thought, but it is not the thought in particular. It integrates every thought that can evolve in your mind, come into your mind, or that your mind has forgotten but is still stored somewhere using whatever, just waiting to be awakened. So the question is, how can you start to tap into the heart mind? The truth is, nobody can tell you how to do that. But you can begin to work on it with doing Neigong practices like God's or meditation. You can learn to keep your mind focused on what you are feeling. What is the experience? What is it that seems to come just before a thought pops out? If you can maintain that while you practice, your thoughts will begin to integrate, and eventually it is the secret to doing all the parts of God's at the same time. It cannot be accomplished by thinking it out, by thinking of each separate point. The heart mind is the space that integrates all the parts and holds them together. Keep trying to be aware of the space just before a thought comes into your mind. You want to identify that space, relax into it, and see comfortably into it. That's what allows the integration of all the parts of our practice, including Tai Chi, Gods, and meditation, into our life. So that certainly gives you a lot to think about.
Yeah, that's an earful.
But to let go
And,
of, too.
yeah, it's well, as you were talking, especially towards in the last parts, I was thinking about, how we start with Wu Ji
Mhm.
and for everything, all the practices,
Ideally.
and I felt like you were talking about that. You weren't using those terms, but everything starting from Wu Ji and moving the energy for Tai Chi.
If
We
you
talk about the parallel there, or
sure,
Wu Ji versus heart mind?
if you can truly enter the state of Wu Ji before you begin to move and allow your movement to come out of the heart mind, then obviously they go together. Um, and they are tied. You're absolutely right. And it's why I think I have uh, mentioned recently that I think it's really important to take the time when you're starting a practice to let yourself become quiet. Whether you fully get into Wu Ji every time is probably not the case, but nonetheless, even allowing yourself to just simply quiet and center before you begin is going to allow you to be more aware of what you are doing. Um, but yes, now we're talking about moving beyond thinking about anything, and clearly, as I said, you have to be completely comfortable with each part before it can integrate without your thinking about it. You know that, so that's not telling you something new. Um, but
Things we know, things we know can be understood more deeply. So,
yes, indeed. Um, and so allowing yourself to let go of thinking that you don't need can help begin to move you along that path too. Because we tend to, with our Western minds of staying in control, um, we tend to keep thinking about what we're doing when we don't need to.
mhm. Does just in terms of imagery of the symbolism of the five elements and Wu Ji, like I think of when I was doing or the little bit that I do with the eight gates and the my version of the Wu, right? There's a moment every time when you're right at Earth. You're moving through directionally, and in the center for me is the Earth image, and that feels like the Wu spot too. Is that
Yeah, I mean you're right. Um, the earth um, the earth element is ideally central equilibrium, and if you can truly find that um, central equilibrium, then for one thing, for instance, you would never be off balance, um, physically or mentally, um, and you would be able to um, progress into the heart mind a lot more easily. Um, and it and really finding central equilibrium um, allows the mind to calm. That's very and so um, yes, of course it is related to Wu.
I'm thinking
Eventually,
it's a I mean all the words to me are words that bring symbols and ideas into our mind, alluding to something that you can't quite pin down because you can describe it in so many ways,
right.
and none of them are right on, but they a lot of them are very valuable and useful. And so I was sort of thinking that Wuji and Earth and Heart Mind are sort of describing aspects of the same indescribable.
Well, they're certainly related. Um, Taiji is really more specifically related to where yin yang emerges from, and as I said before, all of the various qualities and lack of qualities exist simultaneously of yin and yang. Um, and and certainly they're related. I'm not suggesting that's not related to the heart mind, but it's not the same thing. So recognizing the integration of these things is part of what we're looking for. Any questions for you, Mr. Nagel?
Oh, no, this has been interesting, invaluable.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Um, the, this is really taking us I think, hopefully another big step in more deeply being aware of what we're trying to do with our God's practice. And any other practice you may be doing too. And you're absolutely right, Bill. We're into using words to describe something you can't describe. It's kind of like my experience in the cave.
Yeah, yeah. As you were talking, another little thought crossed. When the term heart-mind connection, and then if you just talk about heart-mind, uh, in a way that I understood what you're saying about the Chinese perspective on the heart is that it's like another mind,
Yes.
using a Western term.
Yep.
And perhaps the brain or is mind and heart too, has components of both.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yep.
so at first I was thinking, well, heart mind, is heart just the noun and is mind the modifier, or is it vice versa? Are the two nouns there? Or, uh,
I think you're thinking too much about that.
maybe I am. Yeah.
Because it is a combination in a way, but it is one thing. It's not, it's made up of different parts. Just as our practice of gods ideally is made up of different parts, but eventually becomes just one thing integrated.
Yeah.
And I think that word integration is really important in that we're not we're not talking about a heart and a mind combining.
Mhm. I
Um,
mean, the Western thought we split ourselves into rational and emotional
yep,
and talk about the left and right side of the brain. We don't talk about the heart
yep,
other than courageous or brokenhearted and,
yep,
really emotional things.
yep.
And then it turns out that most of our decisions end up being emotional, no matter how rational we are.
Yeah.
uh, that's kind of the model I've lived with my whole life.
Yeah.
How
I mean, this is looking at all of that in a very different way.
yeah.
Um, and separating the origination of thought from the concrete thought itself is, I think, a really important distinction here.
Say that one more time. Separating the
Separating the origination of the thought in the heart mind and thinking about the concrete thought are two different things. They're two parts of a process, but they're not they are not the same thing. More describing what can't be described.
Right. We talk a lot about that, don't
Actually, yes.
we? Mm.
Well, um,
I, I think it would be interesting, separate from this class, sometime to have a conversation about um, all these, how it all comes together. Thinking about the Negong and um, the five elements and eight energies, and I'm fascinated. I keep going back to Master Joe's book and all of his little diagrams, which do that, leave questions,
yeah.
and but he's still the best. And I'm reading the Alan Watts, this one, the Waterhouse Way, which describes a neat thing that I hadn't heard about the five elements before. There's the ascending and descending
Uh huh.
mode of thinking about those things, and
Yep.
um, I'm fascinated by, I guess, the mechanics of all the symbolism and how the practices, whether you're thinking about it or not, move through all of those things. And it's
Mm.
like the five elements are there, and the energies are rotating around, and all the trigrams are moving around you in different directions, and
Yeah.
as you're doing it, I think the whole thing is fascinating. I'm surprised there's not like an animated illustration of that gives several of the basic models and then shows how they all work together in some machine like Copernicus machine or something.
Well, the yin yang and the eight um, trigrams and energies are that's pretty easy because we have that combined. Um,
Right, right.
but the when you are thinking about the five elements, it seems a little difficult to think about them in relation to the other. But um, you have to remember that the five elements are something that whole concept was developed in um, traditional Chinese medicine, in Taoist um, exploration that has resulted in traditional Chinese medicine.
Mhm.
Um, and the five elements are describing the the way our bodies function, how all the parts are integrated and both encourage the growth and um, limit excess and give us a way of judging when something is out of balance and therefore recognizing what needs to be rebalanced. So it's not that it's not looking at yin yang and um, the eight gates, but it's looking at a specific that is applied to body and health,
Mhm.
because they function. When you're talking about um, in the five elements, that in each of the five elements you have yin and yang qualities. And you want to have a balance of those yin and yang qualities. When they get out of balance, um, that's when we discover that something is going wrong in our body or mind.
Or art. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so it's not that they don't relate to each other, but they're um, yin yang and the eight gates are talking about a more comprehensive overall
Mhm.
approach to things, whereas the five elements are more specific um, to our physical bodies and mental conditions.
Mhm.
Um,
So the five elements lead to expand into the acupuncture
oh yeah,
practice and
absolutely,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. Um, I was thinking of how a really good um, traditional doctor who can do actual pulse diagnosis, it is it is really extraordinary um, because in our pulses in the wrist there are um, basically there are three positions and three levels. Um, and I actually studied pulse diagnosis with the guy who's probably um, in the Western world is certainly probably the most outstanding practitioner of that. Um, and it's really amazing because you have all of the um, all of the meridians and channels and the elemental qualities of each of them accessible there.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, so that's a place where um, the five elements come in and connect with um, not only the basic 12 acupuncture meridians, but ultimately with the, as Bruce likes to say, the 4,000 meridians in the body. Um,
Uh, yeah.
on and
Well,
on.
thank you for this. Thank you for this, David. I appreciate it.
Ah, you're welcome. I'm sorry I'm not better at explaining all of it, but
I think I value these greatly. So thank you.
Yeah.
you're welcome. Thank you.
Bye bye.
So have a great week.
Yes. You too, both.
You also. Bye
Yep.
bye.
See you next Tuesday as well as Wednesday, Bill.
Yes. My goodness. Yeah. Have a good week, David.
Thank you very much. I will.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.